Hey guys, this is Jordan here, and I'm going to be talking about Warhammer 40k. I've been playing Warhammer 40k for, 10 years or so, and I'm really excited to start talking about them. The review I'm going to do today is Pink Horrors. Pink Horrors are one of my favorite looking troops. They're a lesser demon of Tzeentch, and they have a special rule, Magic Made Manifest, and that's pretty much what they are. Stat-wise, Pink Horrors of Tzeentch are not too great. They have Weapon Skill 3, Ballistic Skill 3, Strength 3, Toughness 3, Wounds 1, Initiative 3, Attacks 1, Leadership 7, and Save Dash, which of course they're a demon, so they have a 5+ invulnerable save. But because they're a demon of Tzeentch, they get to re-roll all failed rolls of 1. They are not meant for close combat. They do have a special rule called Blue Horrors, which means that for everyone that dies in close combat, you strike back at Strength 2 at the Initiative 1 step. Which is okay, you're getting a free hit, but these are your shooting units. They have the Brotherhood of Sorcerers special rule, so that means that all of these act as basically one sorcerer. And they are the Demon of Tzeentch. They have the Demonic Instability, which is the same for every Chaos Demon. They have the Deep Strike special rule, and Magic Made Manifest. Magic Made Manifest means that they generate a number of warp charge points depending on how many Pink Horrors there are. So for over here, there's 10 Pink Horrors over here. So you would generate 1 warp charge point. Now if you have one more Pink Horror, forgive me, this guy just broke off his base, you would now get 2 warp charge points. It works from 10 to 15, you get 2 warp charge points, and from 16 to 20, you get 3. One of my favorite ways of deploying Pink Horrors is like this. If you can get a building that blocks line of sight, it's perfect for these. That's because if you just have this one Pink Horror right there, he can shoot all of those Chaos Space Marines. Because they're Brotherhood of Sorcerers, that means they generate all of their psychic powers through just the one Pink Horror. So while this Pink Horror right here can shoot all those Chaos Space Marines right there, these Chaos Space Marines can only kill that one Pink Horror. So that's pretty good because even if that one Pink Horror dies, the rest of the Pink Horrors over here can just come to replace them, and they have the same shooting potential because they'll still be generating the same amount of warp charge points depending on the number you have. If you have 10 or less, they'll generate the 1 warp charge point. So even if you have just 1 Pink Horror, it's still going to be generating the same warp charge point, and it'll have the same effectiveness. Now I'll talk about the actual options for the units. So you can include up to 10 additional Pink Horrors for 9 points per model. 1 Pink Horror may be upgraded to an Iridescent Horror. So you can just have a normal guy, like over here. Oops. He can just be upgraded to an Iridescent Horror, which is like a sergeant of the squad, basically. So the Iridescent Horror, all he gets is +1 attack, but an Iridescent Horror may take up to 20 points of demonic rewards in any combination between lesser and greater rewards. Personally, I wouldn't give your Iridescent Horror any rewards because you can typically make them good in close combat this way, and by giving them an Ether Blade or Greater Ether Blade or some other variant depending on your god's faction, your patron god. But Pink Horrors are really meant for shooting, so most of the time I wouldn't even bother with that. However, I would upgrade to the Iridescent Horror because that means an Iridescent Horror is a character, and all characters can snapshot. So if you generate your psychic powers from the Iridescent Horror, sorry, I don't mean snapshot, I mean precision shot. So if you do that and you roll any 6s to hit, that means that you're going to be choosing the target who's getting hit, and I'll show you why in a second why that can be so good. So another option you can have is 1 Pink Horror can take an Instrument of Chaos. Looks like that. There we are. So an Instrument of Chaos is pretty good if you're deep striking with them, because if you deep strike and you get them in, then you get another unit of demons that can just come in for free. So, great if you're deep striking, but if you're going to just keep them on the field, back by your objective, then I wouldn't even bother. It can also help you out with rolls on the Warp Storm too. If you don't like a result, you can reroll one of it. But I would mainly only do it if you were deep striking. And then the other option is to take an Icon of Chaos, which can be upgraded to the Blasted Standard. So this is okay, but it's a little risky. The reason why, so what a Blasted Standard does is once per game, when the unit shoots or attempts to manifest a Witchfire power, any target hit by that attack takes an additional 2d6 strength for AP- hits. So that can potentially be pretty good, especially since they only have Ballistic Skill 3, so getting those shots in for free for 20 points basically, once per game, it's not bad, but the problem is, if the enemy denies your Witchfire power, then it's all for nothing. So you just gotta ask yourself, are you willing to take that chance, basically? Okay, so now I think I'll go on to the actual psychic powers they can do. Pink Horrors are demons of Tzeentch, and as such they generate powers from the discipline of change. Now all of these powers have a special rule called Warp Flame, and so I'll just say right now, units that take wounds from this attack take a toughness test, and this happens at the end of the shooting phase. If failed, they suffer d3 wounds with no armor or cover saves. If passed, they gain the Feel No Pain special roll on 6+ Feel No Pain, or +1 to their Feel No Pain rolls for the rest of the game. So potentially it could be a hindrance, but potentially it can be very good. Now, the key rule here is that it happens at the end of the shooting phase. So if you have a bunch of different Pink Horror units, or a unit of Pink Horrors plus Kairo's Fate Weaver, plus an Agent's Defense Line, plus a Soul Grinder, or whatever. If you have multiple units shooting at one unit, then all of a sudden it becomes less of an issue, because you'll most likely whittle that unit down to just a few models, so even if they get +1 to their Feel No Pain, it's not a big deal. It also works in great combination with monstrous creatures like a Bloodthirster that can just smash the enemy and auto-kill them anyway. So overall, it can actually not be a big deal if you get that, and it can potentially be very good by causing extra wounds. Okay, so now on to the actual power themselves. So the Primaris power is called the Flickering Fire of Tzeentch. It's Warp Charge 1 to 3, and it's Witchfire. So the way it works is, it's got Assault 2d6 if you use 1 Warp Charge point. So for Pink Horrors, if you have 10 or less, then it's 2d6 shots. So important to note here is that you can have just 1 Pink Horror, and it'll fire the same as 10 Pink Horrors. It's Assault 3d6 if you use 2 Warp Charge points. So with the Pink Horrors you need between 11 to 15 to get this. And Assault 4d6 if you use 3 Warp Charge points. So you need 16 to 20 Pink Horrors in order to get that. The actual stats is range 24 inches, strength 5, armor piercing 4, soul blaze, and warp flame. So overall it's pretty good. I mean, the problem you have is that the enemy will get a chance to deny the witch, but that's just a chance you're going to have to take. It can potentially be very good. And then, okay, so that's the Primaris power, which seems to be designed for Pink Horrors and seems to be the most common one to do. But the next one here is Tzeentch's Firestorm. So it's a Warp Charge 1, it's a Witchfire. Range 24 inches, strength d6 plus 1, AP dash, and type Assault 1, Blast, Warp Flame. So this is actually a pretty good alternative to the Flickering Fire Tzeentch. If you only have like 10 Pink Horrors, then you can just use this, and it's probably going to be about the same effectiveness as Flickering Fire. It's great because you don't need to roll the hit, you just need to scatter the blast, so all of a sudden their Ballistic Skill 3 isn't that big of an issue. I would probably use it against Toughness 3 models, hordes, like even orcs, Tyranids, Imperial Guard. It could probably do quite a bit of damage there. But now a really interesting one is Bolt of Change. And so Bolt of Change is Warp Charge 1, it's a beam, range 24 inches, strength D6 plus 4, armor piercing 2, assault 1, warp flame. So I'm just going to elaborate a little bit on the Bolt of Change right now. So say you were lucky enough to be able to deep strike your Pink Horrors over here. Here's the back armor of a Rhino, here's the back armor of a Soul Grinder. So what you do is you get your 2d6, you roll your psychic test, and there's 7, you pass. And by the way, because Pink Horrors of Tzeentch are a Demon of Tzeentch, they get +3 to their psychic tests. Now that doesn't mean they become leadership 12, because no one can be leadership 12, but they become leadership 10 for psychic tests, which is pretty good for a troop. So now what you do is you trace the line, so clearly the beam will hit both of them. So now they are going to try to deny the witch. So the Rhino will try, and got a 4, so it failed. And the Soul Grinder will try, and got a 2, so they both failed. That's great. So now what you do is you roll your d6 and you add 4, and that's the strength you get. So I got a 2, which is a little on the low side, but it's still not bad. It's strength 6 versus back armor of 2 vehicles here. So first I would do strength 6 versus the Rhino versus armor 10, so got a 1, did nothing. So then it would become strength 5 to the Soul Grinder, because when you go through one unit, the strength of the beam becomes less. So the Soul Grinder is armor 11, so I need 6 plus basically. And I got a 6, and I was lucky. So now the Soul Grinder would do its vulnerable save. Gotta reroll that. And it fails, so I just did a glancing hit on a Soul Grinder, which is not bad for just a cheap 90-point unit. Another combo you can do with this is if you have Kairo's Fate Weaver. This guy right here. This guy is really cool. If you have him out, what he does is, with his staff, you can re-roll a single d6 per turn. So I got a 2 for that Bolt of Change. So if I want to re-roll that, maybe I'll get better. So I got a 5 now. So let's try now. That's strength 9 versus the Rhino. So that's a penetrating hit. And then it's armor piercing 2. So 3. I would have crew stunned that Rhino. And then versus the Soul Grinder. Let's see. That's another penetrating hit. And he already failed his invulnerable save from before. So there's 3. Another crew stun. So I basically just took 2 hull points off of 2 vehicles, and I crew stunned them. All thanks to Pink Horrors and this guy, Kairo's Fate Weaver. It's a pretty good combination to have with Pink Horrors. So the next one is, the final one is called Infernal Gateway. It's Warp Charge 2, Witchfire, range 18 inches, strength D6 plus 4, AP 1, assault 1, blast, warp flame. So this one is actually pretty good. It's a shorter range, but it's great versus Terminators. And the fact is, you might kill enough Terminators with this that the bonus to their feel no pain if they pass it would be negligible anyway. Another tactic to avoid the problem with warp flame is to actually shoot at tanks or flyers. I mean, even if you're shooting at a flyer, you get enough shots. You roll 46, chances are you're going to get enough hits, you're going to get enough 6s, and you actually might do something. Another great model to add to Pink Horrors is the Herald of Tzeentch. You probably saw this model here with some of my other shots earlier. A Herald of Tzeentch is great because he can basically power up the squad. You can give him 2 warp charge points, and he generates from divination and change. So you can quite easily just give him the Primaris from divination, which means that the Pink Horrors are going to be re-rolling all of their failed to hit rolls. So it's great with a large unit of Pink Horrors because if you have 20 Pink Horrors in this guy, then you get 46 shots. So you get, that's 12, that's 17 shots right there. So you would get 17 shots, and you get to re-roll all that fail. So that's pretty great. So another thing you can do too is you can give him the Exalted Locus of Conjuration. And what this means is that the Pink Horrors are getting +1, and him actually. They're getting +1 to their psychic shooting attacks. So if you give them the Flickering Fire Tzeentch and you get 17 shots, that's going to be 17 shots that re-roll to hit and are strength 6. So even if you do give a unit like Tau Fire Warriors Feel No Pain, it doesn't matter because you're going to be auto-killing them anyway, which is great. And don't forget that he too can generate from the Change Discipline. So he can even get Flickering Fire Tzeentch and add even just another 2d6 shots. And there you go, you got 5 right there. And he has Ballistic Skill 4, so he'll be hitting on a 3+ and re-rolling to hit. So let's see, just him, he's already got 4 hits, plus he'll re-roll. So there's 5 right there, and versus just basic Marines is 2+2 wound. You got all those wounds, and the Marines just have to do their save. And you just killed 2 Marines just with this one guy. Not to mention all those other points, all those other Pink Horrors. Now, of course, the Marines can try to deny the witch, and they would have done it. But can they deny the witch on the Horrors too? No, they don't. So if you add him with the Horrors, then chances are it's less of a chance for them to deny the witch. The more shooting you're going to do against them, the less chance they're going to get at it. Of course, it's still risky, but overall, Pink Horrors are a pretty cheap unit, so most of the time it's worth the risk. So overall, Pink Horrors are a pretty good unit. Say hello to Warhammer Kitty here. I would use Pink Horrors. I love the models. I love how they work, and I personally love the randomness to them. But when you think about it, they're not really that random, and they're pretty good if you're smart with them. Most of the time, I would probably only take 10 or actually 11 with an Iridescent Horror and hide them behind a wall. Because if you have 11, then for at least a turn, then you'll get that extra d6 of shooting. You would get the 2 warp charge points instead of just 1. So I would take 11 with an Iridescent Horror. If you have the extra points, I would take the Blasted Standard to get those extra shots in, but it's not a necessity. Most of the time, I would probably add a Herald of Tzeentch, unless you just want a really cheap scoring unit, in which case I wouldn't even do it. Other tactics you can have is to hide them behind an Aegis defense line, actually, because if you go down to ground, you're getting a 2+ cover save, and because they're a Demon of Tzeentch, that means they reroll 1s too, so it's actually very hard to get rid of them. Another way you can make them tougher is if you put the Grimoire of True Names on them, all of a sudden they have a 3+ invulnerable save, rerolling 1s. And if you really want to take your chances and really make them even harder, you can try getting more divination powers from your Herald or a Lord of Change, and hope for the one that gives them a 4+ invulnerable save. And if you do that, then you put the Grimoire on them, and then they have a 2+ invulnerable save, rerolling 1s. And that's just ridiculous. You can just destrike a squad of 20 and they just won't die. Overall, I like them quite a bit. They're really good for shooting. Chaos Demons really need the shooting support, so they're pretty welcome in most lists. And overall, the Warp Flame is not really a hindrance. You can easily get around it. I think they're useful just for that fire support, which most Chaos lists need, and just hanging out at the back and just taking objectives. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you like this, give me a like down below, and if you have any other comments, leave them too. I'll check for the comments, and happy wargaming.